Good evening and welcome to the news on Canal de English. We begin this newscast with the headlines. As the Anglophone crisis deepens, traveling from Bamenda to Kumbo has now been described as a nightmare as police checkpoints have now more than doubled. Drivers have to undergo several checks, and most of the drivers now say a new form of corruption is now gaining ground in this part of the country. Plus, a prison constructed back in the colonial days, the Mbuda Central Prison, is now in an advanced state of dilapidation and is now overcrowded. The overpopulation of the facility has now become a breeding ground for diseases such as HIV and AIDS. And out of the country, Emerson Mnangagwa, the man who is suspected to take over from long-serving leader Robert Mugabe, has granted a press conference in Harare and expressed his zeal to take the country forward. He was speaking shortly after arriving from South Africa, where he had fled for the last 2 weeks. Those were the major stories. Their developments and more just right ahead. Now, since the advent and the escalation of the Anglophone crisis, the town of Kumbo, which happens to be the capital of the Bui division, has witnessed some of the most bloody resistances throughout this crisis. It has also registered some of the highest number of schools that have been burnt. Well, government's response has been military reinforcement, and as we speak, traveling from Bamenda to Kumbo has been described as by most drivers as a nightmare, as the checkpoints have more than doubled. They also say a new form of corruption is breeding in that area. Christel Katala tells us more.
It's not business as usual on the Bamenda-Kumbo stretch of road. Since the escalation of the Anglophone crisis, the number of police checkpoints and other mixed control posts have more than tripled, given Kumbo town has one of the fiercest resistance of the struggle. From Mile 4 in Bamenda to Bambui roundabout, Sagba, Ndop and Shangwai, in Kumbo, the checkpoints just keep increasing and the drivers are wary. We have so many gendarmes now on the road. Those of us who use these roads, we have a lot of problems because sometimes we have to wait for about 30 minutes. The multiplicity in the number of control posts has become a source of complaint. What I go through using the Bamenda-Kumbo road is unbearable. I have all documents required by the state. When I present my documents, they don't want to see. They are even upset. They always collect 1,000 francs from other drivers who do not have the necessary documents and make me wait for long. According to these drivers, it is the state that loses, given money which would have gone into the state treasury is taken as bribe. When we pay money, we acquire vehicles documents. Money gets into the government coffers. But people on the road prefer to collect money from us for their own selfish reasons, to the detriment of the state. In a year, I give about 1.5 million francs to the state as payment for documents. When I do this, I am still interrupted by the police. What's the point paying in the first place? Since the advent of the Anglophone crisis, Kumbo town has witnessed the bloodiest confrontations and a resulting government crackdown.
Now, inmates of the Buda Central Prison in the west region of the country wake up every morning to the dilapidating state of the facility. Now, constructed more than 63 years ago, the prison, which had the capacity to host just 200 prisoners, currently hosts more than 600 inmates. Now, the over-congested nature of the prison has now made it a breeding ground for many diseases, as we hear in the following report. Existing since the colonial period, the Bambutu's colonial prison, which later became known as the Mbuda Central Prison, is suffering from overpopulation. The number of those incarcerated is increasing by the day, and the prison facility can no longer contain the population. Made for a maximum of 200 persons, the prison is now overcrowded as the number of those incarcerated keeps swelling. Constructed some 63 years ago, the facility is now depreciating. There has to be a total reconstruction of the Mbuda Central Prison. You have seen for yourself that the structures are wearing out. The offices are also in bad shape, but well, the government is doing much already. Yeah, the penitentiary officer has set rules and regulations on the importance of keeping bathing facilities clean. The quality of food served at this prison falls far short in quality and quantity. With regards to food, some efforts have been made, but more still has to be done in order to improve upon the quality of the food of the detainees. We are working to improve the situation for the future. A situation not much different from other detention centers in the country. The prisoners of the Buda Central Prison live in precarious situations, and there is also promiscuity here. Respiratory diseases, skin diseases, HIV and AIDS, abdominal diseases, to name these, have become the order of the day. To this effect, the district hospital in Buda has come to offer some medical checkups, giving the detainees the possibility for them to test themselves for different diseases. As the construction of a new prison announced several years back is awaited, detainees can only wait for the day they would be set free. Now, some gardens constructed at the east entrance of the town of Douala can be described as deplorable. Why? Because there have been there's now overgrazing in that, or rather, it's now occupied by grass, and also there's a lot of flowers that have grown into these gardens that are meant to be recreational centers. As Thomas Mokum tells us, the gardens are now in urgent state or in urgent needs of rehabilitation.
Beautiful flowers and grasses are fighting for space in gardens of some major road roundabout in the east part of the city, Douala. These gardens have been suffering from proper mismanagement after their creation, as some inhabitants confirms.
On est en train de se rendre compte que la route est bien faite.
This is a national road. They even call it a CEMAC road. They told us it was well done. This is the gateway to the country. The Douala airport is not far from where we are standing. The grass is there. People are selling. We don't know what it has become. The government should look for means to take care of this garden so that it can give a beautiful image of the town.
Pour que ça fasse une bonne image de notre...
The government has abandoned this garden. So what do you expect from us? We just need to take it the way it is.
Depuis qu'ils ont mis ça, ils ne viennent pas nettoyer.
Since they planted these grasses, they are not coming to clean or clear it. The grasses are just growing carelessly, and it's not beautiful for the eyes to see. These overgrown grasses in the gardens can be inhabited by dangerous insects and animals that can affect the people living around it.
On a peur peut-être on peut avoir des petits serpents verts.
We can have small green snakes hiding in these grasses. Criminals in the night urinate and excrete here. It gives a very bad odor. We are begging on those concerned to come clean the place. The civic responsibility of the population is to be questioned, as they use these gardens for their dump sites, others as urinary. But the million-dollar question in the lips of many is, why will the government use millions of funds CFA to construct these gardens but yet abandon them?
Cameroon is looking forward towards digitalizing its economy. Well, to make this dream a reality, some businessmen in Douala have been trained on how they can use the digital signature, which can help them secure electronic transactions. Experts have also implored the government to establish the digital security models in order to sustain e-commerce and other electronic transactions. Ndi Morin tells us more.
The place of the digital economy is central, if not critical, to the growth of any country's economy. It is even more so only to Cameroon's economy, which is not only in dire need of exploitations in order to mitigate its growing trade deficit, but also experiencing huge competitiveness problems, both quality and quantity-wise.
With the advent of the internet, you'll agree with me that most activities are moved online. I'm talking about
in the area of governance, e-government, in the area of health, e-health, and in the area of commerce, e-commerce. As these activities move online, most criminals also move online with its activities.
In this hall, businessmen are being schooled on the use of digital signature.
We need to put in place mechanisms which can ensure the security of these online transactions. That's where public key infrastructure comes in handy. By providing authentication, meaning in online transactions, you don't get to see the person you are dealing with. So authentication ensures that you know the person you are dealing with is who he claims he is. Confidentiality, meaning that information cannot be made available to any other third party.
According to the Managing Director of National Agency for Information Communication Technology, government has put in place mechanisms to boost overall citizen trust in using electronic services or e-services.
Data integrity ensures that the content of the data has not been modified by any third party. Non-repudiation ensures that people stay committed to previously taken engagements. So public key infrastructure provides all the security service and in the process secures online transactions and guarantees confidence in these online transactions.
It should be noted, government is engaged in the development of public key infrastructure technology across all sectors of the economy in order to significantly reduce the risk of forgery, theft, or abuse of identification credentials.
Now, still on an economic-related story, the culture of book reading is still to gain ground in Cameroon and in other parts across Africa. Well, an international conference to show how book reading can help to promote economic growth has taken place in Yaoundé. And our reporter, Tabby Clarkson, was there. He brought back this report.
Prime Minister Philemon Yang this Wednesday opened a high-level conference on the theme, the publishing sector on Africa and its role in education and economic growth. The objective of the conference is to reflect on how to use books in order to help African economies to grow.
How do we as publishers, how do we as authors write in ways that will encourage the children to read? How do publishers publish in ways that will make literature affordable to the African? In most cases, people will say they want to buy a book that is so expensive. In some cases, people who write books don't write to address issues that are pertinent to the continent. And so I'm not sure about Cameroon, but in Ghana, we grew up reading Chinua Achebe and all these great authors.
There is a popular saying that if you want to hide something from a black man, you should put it in a book. This Minister Mwele Kombi thinks will soon be a thing of the past.
The book industry is a very important and strategic sector all over the world. But in Africa, book industry is facing a lot of problems. The specific objective of this international conference is to establish a plan, a strategy of action to develop and to enhance the capacity of book industry and publishing industry so as to contribute to the development, the economic growth of our.
Well, the Chinese ambassador to Cameroon, His Excellency Wei Wenyan, has made some donations of 9 million francs CFA to the Chantal Biya Foundation. Well, the gifts is intended to support victims of the Anglophone crisis. Once more, Tabby Clarkson.
Cameroon has this Wednesday made some donations to the Chantal Biya Foundation. Bags of rice, cartons of oil, soap and other items. The items, the ambassadors say, are destined to the victims of the Anglophone crisis. Buea and Bamenda will in the days ahead receive their gifts from the Chinese government.
We have very good relationships with the Chantal Biya Foundation. Every year we donate to the foundation to help the Cameroonian people. This year the donation is going to help the people from the Anglophone regions. we do hope that our donation will help them to have a better life.
Receiving the gifts on behalf of the Chantal Biya Foundation, the Secretary General of the Foundation, Bisu Bidung, did not only express her gratitude to the Chinese government, but also promised that the donations will arrive their various destinations. The Chinese ambassador to Cameroon also visited the hospital, a way to express his compassion to all sick persons. Prime Minister.
We'll now take you to the southwest region, precisely to Buea, where some students of the government high school Buea town have planted trees as their own way of preserving their environment. The efforts of the students have been lauded by the Regional Delegation for Environment, Nature Protection and Sustainable Development, Christel Katala.
The preservation of environment is henceforth a way of life of students of the government high school Buea town. These students, members of the Environment Club of this institution, have taken numerous activities to help preserve the environment. Members of the Southwest Regional Delegation of Environment, Nature Protection and Sustainable Development have lauded this initiative of Government High School Buea town.
The green grass goes around, and the green grass goes around.
The importance of natural. The author of this book.
Students of GHS Buea town have distinguished themselves among other schools in Buea in its engagement in the protection of nature. At the Southwest region, most of the schools here have a nature club. We just came to support them in their initiative. This tree planting exercise will help in protecting the environment, protection of nature and sustainable development. This is another way of preserving our ever-changing planet.
Craftsmen in the southwest region of the country have demonstrated their craftsmanship in a showcase that took place in Limbe. The 6th edition of the Regional Craftsmanship Exposition gave craftsmen the opportunity to portray their creativity and the productions from local material. Gladys Ambodibang tells us more.
The artistic potentials of the southwest region in Cameroon have been exhibited in Limbe. We are at the premises of the Limbe Chamber of Commerce, where 90 craftsmen have showcased their artistic creation for this 6th edition of the Regional Craftsmen Exposition. Numerous visitors at the site are marveled by the works of these craftsmen of the southwest region, which shows creativity, fitness and originality. The governor of the southwest region, Bernard Okale Bilai, together with the public, discovered works of art presented with so much joy.
We are here to sell natural spices, food spices, which will be beneficial for those who don't want to labor themselves to cook in the kitchen.
I will from the do food transformation. Coconut and Coca-Cola products. I have 40 products for now. Coconut and 4 products from Coca-Cola. I have Coca-Cola baby cough syrup, Coca-Cola adult cough syrup, and Coca-Cola tincture.
These craftsmen make use of several materials to produce these valuable objects.
To help increase the competitiveness of our craftsmen and women. And so this time around, we carried it under the theme, handicrafts to be realities and opportunities. Why this theme? Because we are trying after 5 editions, we tried this time around to evaluate how far, what we have achieved so far in the handicraft sector. And so we have tried and achieved a lot. At the level of the ministry, we have done a lot to help to valorize this sector. For example, we have handicraft villages all over, which is going to help our craftspersons training, because before now, they were creating, but they had serious problems with finishings and packages. But now we're coming up with handicraft centers, villages. And like I said in my speech, we are trying to help them to commercialize their product, because we notice that our crafters work a lot, but they don't really benefit.
These craftsmen are supported by the Ministry of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises social economy and craftsmanship in terms of production, training and commercialization. The governor of the Southwest region has expressed government's determination to continue supporting these craftsmen. At the end of this 3-day exhibition, the 40 best craftsmen will be selected to represent the Southwest region at the national level.
Land transporters in Cameroon have been urged to respect the rules and regulations governing the sector. Now, that's in order to permit them obtain the necessary documents they need from the Land and Freight Management Office, that's the BGFT. Now, the call was made during an emergency meeting that held recently to discuss the problems of the sector. Once more, Gladys Ambodiban.
They don't have a trade union, they have it in their bags. These land transporters went to the Office of Land Freight Management to collect money. They must first of all have trucks and then goods to transport. This is in response to accusations raised by members of the Organization of Land Transporters in Cameroon over the non-issuance of certain documents by the Land Freight Management Office. The National Trade Union of Road Transporters, SNTRC, says the legal proceedings against the Organization of Land Transporters in Cameroon is still ongoing. This trade union is not recognized. It has two presidents. There is Ibrahim Maki, who is the president, and then the other, who is called Romeo. During an emergency meeting that held on Tuesday, November 21, 2017, members were reminded of their obligations, which included, amongst others, the appropriation of contributions, the right to be a registered member of the trade union, and the non-issuance of certain documents to the other trade unions. The actions were taken with the accord of the Land Freight Management Office. If they respect the regulations put in place by government, then we will issue them the necessary documents. They must respect that before they come up to demand whatever they want. Trade unionists and officials later went afield to witness if a strike action called by land transporters have been respected. There, they noticed transporters were busy with work. There is no strike and there will be none. We are working for the state and we accept government's decisions. We are preserving peace in our country. We don't want problems. It should be noted that a decision that called for the respect of a strike action was lifted during a meeting that held on Tuesday, November 21, with the Minister of Labour and Social Insurance.
Well, as we announced in the headline, former Vice President of Zimbabwe, that's Emmerson Mnangagwa, has addressed thousands of Zimbabweans in a press conference shortly after returning from South Africa. Emmerson Mnangagwa, who fled 2 weeks ago after he was sacked as Vice President by Robert Mugabe, is set to be sworn in as interim president this Friday, November the 24th, 2017. Now, Emmerson Mnangagwa will become Zimbabwe's next president, according to the program where he's going to be sworn in on Friday. But who is this man that is expected to run the South African nation until fresh elections are conducted? We have the details in the following report.
Emmerson Dambuzu Mnangagwa, 75 years old, has been Robert Mugabe's right-hand man most of his political life. He served as vice president from 2014 until his dismissal on the 6th of November 2017. Although ramblings had become evident between Mnangagwa and First Lady Grace Mugabe, everything changed after he took ill in August at the ZANU-PF rally and was airlifted to South Africa for treatment. Following that incident, he and the President Mugabe conflicted each other, with Mnangagwa saying he was poisoned and Mugabe saying he wasn't. This angered First Lady Grace Mugabe, who openly called for his removal. It was Mnangagwa's dismissal from both cabinet and ZANU party that brought out the army out of the barracks to stage a military takeover. Emmerson Mnangagwa was born on the 15th of September 1942 in Shivashani, central Zimbabwe.
He was in primary school when his family was forced to relocate to northern Rhodesia, present-day Zambia, in 1955. In Zambia, he completed his primary education and was quickly selected to technical college, where he was later expelled for political activism. He returned to Zimbabwe in 1964 after being detained in Tanzania and formed a now renowned group called the Crocodile Group, which fought the liberation war against the whites. In December 2014, he became vice president of ZANU-PF and Zimbabwe, and on Friday, he will be sworn in as the next president of Zimbabwe.
Ladies and gentlemen, and that's how we saw it for this edition of the news on Canado English. Thanks for watching. Have a good night in the company of programs on Canado English.